This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the October meeting of the Audit Committee and of the full board at the Town of Boonville offices. We appreciate the town's willingness to host us here today. For members of the public attending remotely, we ask that you please close other programs on your computer or phone, silence your cell phone, and mute your audio when not speaking. Agendas for today's meeting are available at hrbrrd.ny.gov under board meetings. The conference organizer will monitor the program's chat function for anyone wishing to address the board during the public comment period during the meeting of the full board. For anyone wishing to address the board, kindly use the chat function or email brao@hrbrrd.ny.gov or simply speak up during the public comment period during the full board meeting. I will now turn the gavel over to Mr. Hayes for the Audit Committee meeting, where the first order of business will be the pledge of allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we will call the order for the audit committee. Mr. Leslie, can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Committee Chair Albert Hayes.
Here.
Committee members Kenneth DeWitt,
Here.
Richard Byrd, and Timothy Reagan.
Here.
Board Chair Mark Finkel.
Here.
Board members Nicole Allen.
Here.
Alfred Candido.
Here.
Executive Director John Callahan.
Here.
General Counsel Robert Leslie here. Chief Engineer Robert Fultan.
Here.
Chief Fiscal Officer Timothy Minicha.
Here.
And the Director of Administrative Services Stephanie Rizicki.
Thank you, Mr. Leslie. This time, I wonder if I could have a motion to adopt and review the meeting agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Reagan.
And first, Mr.
DeWitt.
Reagan, and second, Mr. DeWitt. Can I have all in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none. And the approval of the November 13, 2024 Audit Committee meeting minutes. Have a motion on that?
Mr. DeWitt, Mr. Byrd.
Mr. Byrd. All in favor? On committee business, we have some new business. Presentation of independent audit by John Costello, CPO of EFPR Group LLP, Certified Public Accountants for year ending June 30, 2025. Mr. Minicha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gives me great pleasure to introduce again to you John Costello, a certified public accountant since 2008 and a partner at EFPR Advisory, where he has responsibility for providing audit, accounting, and consulting services for numerous educational and governmental organizations, including the regulating district. John has over 10 years of public accounting experience. He received a Bachelor of Science degree in Registered Accounting from the State University of New York, College of Buffalo in 2006. John is going to review his firm's report to the board, share at a high level his reflections on the audited financial statements, and answer any questions that you have. Before getting started, I just want to also thank my colleagues, Anna Tracy and Kim Scott, as well as John and his team, for their hard work and commitment to getting the audit completed in a timely manner. And with that, I will turn it over to you, John.
Okay. Once again, I'm John Costello with the EFPR Group for your external independent financial auditors. You should have been provided 3 documents. One's the report to the board, one's your financial statements, and one's your investment compliance report. I'm going to start with the report to the board. Your significant accounting policies are described in note 2 for the year ended June 30th, 2025. The regulating district adopted governmental accounting standards board statement number 101, compensated absences, and statement number 102, certain risk disclosure. We noted no transactions entered into by the regulating districts for which there was a lack of authoritative guidance or consensus. All significant transactions have been recognized in the financial statements in the proper period. We look at your accounting estimates, which determined that they were reasonable in relation to the financial statements as a whole. The financial statement disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. There was no difficulties with management in performing and completing the audit. Any misstatements were identified during the audit, were communicated to management and corrected. There was no disagreements with management. We requested certain representations from management that were included in the management representation letter. We're not aware of management consulting with other independent accountants or opinion shopping. We discuss audit findings or issues with management, but that's not a condition of our attention. Last paragraph, we talk about report supplementary information, how we only do limited procedures and do not provide an opinion on that. We also talk about other supplementary information, which is not required supplementary information. We can compare that to the underlying accounting records that used to prepare the financial statements themselves, and we do get an opinion on that. Financial statements themselves, start the opinion. Page 1, we audited financial statements of the regulating districts for the year ended June 30th, 2025 and 2024. In our opinion, the consolidated financial statements referred to above present fairly non-material respects. Financial position of the regulating district as of June 30th, 2025 and 2024, and respective changes in financial position and cash flows for the years then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. The next paragraph section is our basis of opinion. We conducted our audits in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, and standards applicable to financial audits contained in government auditing standards. And we believe the audit evidence that we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for audit opinions. Next section deals with management's responsibilities. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of consolidated financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America, as well as the design, implementation, and maintenance of internal control relevant to the preparation and fair presentation of consolidated financial statements that are free from material misstatement, coverage, fraud, or error. Next section deals with, on page 2, deals with the auditor's responsibilities for the audit. Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but it's not an absolute assurance, and therefore it's not a guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Then it goes on to how we perform our audit. Next section at the bottom of page 2 talks about required supplementary information. Again, as mentioned before, we don't audit required supplementary information. It's required by Governmental Accounting Standards Board. We applied limited going on to page 3. We applied certain limited procedures to this information, and we do not express an opinion or provide any assurance on the information because of the limited procedures. Do not provide us with evidence to express an opinion or provide any assurance. The next section is supplementary information. Again, we compare and reconcile the supplementary information of the financial statements and to financial records themselves. And in our opinion, the other supplementary information is fairly stated, non-material respects in relation to the basic consolidated financial statements as a whole. And the last section, other reporting required by government auditing standards, is just referring to another report that's at the end of the financial statements that we issue. So if we skip to page Next section is just management's discussion and analysis, where they go into changes and gives management the opportunity to put information in there that is not necessarily financial. We do not audit that information. On page 11, this is your consolidated statement of net position. Biggest changes here, accounts receivable decreased considerably. Last year, you had a $1.27 million receivable from New York State, which was subsequently collected. You'll also notice that you now have a lease receivable, both the short-term and the long-term portion. This is from the lease with leasing a portion of the Stillwater Dam site and hydroelectric facility to Northern Power and Light. Capital assets increased about $9 million. There's $9 million in additions, mostly in construction in progress. This was offset by $427,000 in depreciation and amortization. Your accounts payable increased over $1 million. This is timing due to invoices related to the rehab at Indian Lake. Everything else in current liabilities is fairly consistent. Non-current liabilities, you now have a bond anticipation note for about $6.5 million. This is your borrowings from EFC for the Indian Lake rehab. The rest of your non-current liabilities are fairly consistent. Your deferred inflows of resources, you'll notice there's now a lease deferred inflow of resources that's related to your lease receivable. And then your net position for the year ended 2025, you ended with a positive net position of $536,000. Last year, there was a deficit of $620,000. On page 12, this is your consolidated statement of activities and changes in net position. Overall, your revenues are fairly consistent. Your assessments were slightly down. Your personnel services, employee benefits, and other post-employment benefits, the swings in those are from actuarial changes. You get your pension information from New York State. We're required to report that. You hire an actuary to calculate your other post-employment benefits. So what you're seeing in those swings are the changes from year to year for those two reports mainly. It's not that salaries decreased considerably, it's just the actuarial changes related to those benefits. Both items you make as a pay-as-you-go basis. So you pay your pension invoice once a year. You make your regular monthly payments for health insurance. These are just numbers that are recorded to be reported and aren't necessarily cash driven. It's just numbers. Non-operating revenue, biggest change is last year, again, that appropriations from New York State, which was a receivable last year that's collected. Your change in net position, down about $400,000 from the prior year, but still it's at $1.2 million. And you are no longer in a deficit. You are at a positive net position of, again, $536,000. Next two are pages 13 and 14. These are your cash flows. So this just looks at the cash coming in and out versus any accruals. So you'll see that on your cash receipts, you'll see that other cash receipts, that 1.2 million, that's your cash receipt from the New York State for these appropriations that was received. So capital assets went up considerably from rehab. You got your cash flows from the bond anticipation note. So overall, your cash went up $1.1 million to a balance of $7.2 million. Page 14 is just reconciling.
Just one question on that. On the money that we didn't receive from the hydro, Tim, does that then just go back to assessment back to the individual counties? they have to make up the difference in that money?
So it doesn't work that directly. We don't get to put that source of funds that we don't get anymore. It goes into, the entire formulation of the budget that we have presented in the past. We are finding ways to continue to create positive financial condition in the absence of $1.5 million a year, roughly 20% of the regulating district's revenue, which is no longer with us.
So it's not back into the individual counties. You made up the 1.5 million?
Correct. And we did that largely by the state assuming back in 2022 responsibility for the over $3 million in real property tax payments.
I forgot that. I couldn't figure out how.
We're gonna take a little walk down memory lane here when John finishes his. And so thank you for that preview of where we're heading.
And the only other question, the money that we should receive at some point in time for that, hopefully, we don't show that anymore.
We do not, because it's not, I'll defer to John for the precise terminology about when we recognize revenues and expenses, but we do not have a strong enough of a basis at this point to incorporate any potential recognition of that into our financial statements.
It has to be more than likely, and the dollar value has to be determinable. So until you get to somewhere, some concrete, you can't really just put an estimate in the receivable.
If we did, we would be outside of GASB standards for the recognition of revenue. We would not be issuing financial statements consistent with generally accepted accounting principles, which we are required to do.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about litigation, you guys. If that gets to litigation stuff, does that become a counterpoint that they don't need the money? That's one of my mind.
We remain hopeful, but we do not yet have a firm and tangible enough basis to incorporate that into our financial statements.
Even expectant, more than hopeful.
What was it?
Even expectant that those monies have become available at some point.
I'm just trying, I don't want to play with words. I would hope we get it.
Mhm.
That's what you told me.
Yes.
Okay, again, on page 14, this is just reconciling net cash provided to changes in your statements of net position. Nothing really to go through on that one. Page 15 through 40, these are your detailed notes to the financial statements. I'm not really going to go through each and every one of them, but it just provides more information on the statement of net position, individual items that are deemed important to the financial statement readers. So you've got like a note on your pensions and your obligations for debt, post-employment benefits, things like that.
Was your firm, do you have a, this is a question I just have been trying to figure out for a while. When we hire a person, when you think about the long-term liabilities for pension and medical and all the benefits, is there a set number that you use that per person, per head count, that this is what you need to figure for retirement?
We do not calculate that. For your pensions, New York State has KPMG, I believe, does the audit, and they audit at the state level, and they say, here's the numbers. So they.
I just wondered if there was a number accounting firms use that this is a set number for a government employee.
No. It's all based on, for pensions, that's all based on the system stuff. So you could fairly look that up. But for each individual government, for other post-employment benefits, That's all based on the benefits provided by your contracts, the amount that the district contributes towards the retirees' pensions versus what they contribute. And that's calculated out into the future. Again, they're kind of, they're just actuarially determined. Let's see, where is that? So if you look on sorry, page 30, you can see for pensions, right now you have a pension liability of $764,000. Again, that's a non-cash thing, but if they change the discount rate, decrease it from 5.9 to 4.9, you go up to a $2.2 million liability. If you go up to from 5.9 to 6.9, you now have an asset of $440,000. It's the same thing with OPEB. They have these swings in them based on a 1% change. So on page 34, you can see the change in your OPEB liability.
Oh, they're post-employment benefits.
Yes. So right now your liability is at $14 million. A 1% increase drops it down to $12.5 million. A 1% decrease in the interest rate brings it up to $16 million. Conversely, just below that, when you look at the healthcare cost trend rates, they're opposite of discount rate. So when you go up 1%, your liability goes up to 14.5 million. You go down 1%, it drops down to 12.2 million. So that's all done actuarially. Again, you provide the information to your actuaries based on, they have plan documents, and they calculate it out based on mortality tables and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So again, the notes detail some of the more items that would be of interest to the reader and the users.
It will be on the quiz, not after this meeting, but definitely by the next meeting. So
It's an open book quiz, right?
I'll give you that.
Page 41, 42, and 43. These are your required supplementary information that we do not get the opinion on. GASB requires this. So page 41, you have your proportionate share of the pension asset or liability in thousands, and so you can see what the value is over the years. So if you look at the bottom row, you can see that generally the pension plan has been hovering in the mid-90s to just over 100% in 1 year. Next page, just 42, that's just your contributions, and then percentage relative to your payroll. It's supposed to be a 10-year schedule, and as the information comes in, we'll fill up to 10 areas. Page 43, these are the changes in OPEB, the other post-employment benefits. Again, this is supposed to be a 10-year schedule, but it hasn't been around that long, so we only have 6 years. But you can see the different changes and interest rates. Page 44 and 45, these are the combining schedules for the individual sections. So you have the Hudson River and the Black River as separate entities, which are then combined to your consolidated to the financial statements. Then the last 2 pages, this is our internal report on internal control. And we'll go on to say that we conduct our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and financial and standards applicable to financial audit and government auditing standards. We consider the regulating district's internal control to determine over financial reporting to determine the audit procedures, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the district's internal control. And accordingly, we do not express an opinion on the effectiveness of the district's internal control. The last paragraph on page 46 gives excuse me, the definitions of significant deficiencies and material weaknesses. Won't read and go into that. Up at 47, we state that during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. However, material weaknesses or significant deficiencies may exist that were not identified. Next section is the report on compliance. Again, we do not, well, we look at and test certain provisions of laws, regulations, contracts, grant agreements, which could have a direct material effect on financial statements. However, providing an opinion was not our objective, and we do not express an opinion. Financial statements. The last item is the investment compliance report, because you as public authority we're required to issue this report. It's very similar to the other reports. We give our opinion, which is that you're in compliance with the requirements of Section 2925 of the New York State Public Authorities Law, and Title II, Section 201.2 of the New York State Codes of Rules and Regulations. So it's an unmodified or clean opinion. That's what we want. We go again, the basis of our opinion, conducted in accordance with auditing standards during the United States of America, government auditing standards. The management responsibilities on page 2. Management is responsible for compliance, for the design and implementation and maintenance of effective internal control over compliance. The auditor's responsibility, again, that's to provide reasonable assurance, which is a high level assurance, but it's not absolute assurance. Therefore, it's not a guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards will always protect material non-compliance whenever it exists. And it goes on to forming the audit. To that. The last page is our report on internal control over compliance. Then the first paragraph is the definitions of a significant deficiency and material weakness. Second paragraph goes on to state that that our procedures were not designed to identify all deficiencies in internal control, and that material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal control. Given those limitations, during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control over compliance that we consider to be material weaknesses. However, material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal control over compliance may exist that are not identified. Does the board have any specific questions on sections of the financial statements or the reports?
Does anyone have any questions? Questions? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Costa.
You're welcome.
So, Mr. Chair, before you move to adjourn, I was hoping to just take a couple of minutes. John mentioned the management discussion and analysis portion of the financial statements, which you can see starting on page 4 of the document, and that is the responsibility of management. It basically gives us an opportunity to tell a little bit of the story of the year that's covered by the financial statements, and we've done so. We think that there's much good news to tell, and we have tried to tell it at these meetings going forward, but it's there for your review as well. I'm going to hand out something which takes that 1-year time frame and takes us back a little bit further into our recent history together, the journey that we have been on, and we think that it is a positive story, and one that we are happy to tell. Net position, right, in plain English, is basically what is conveyed at the bottom of that statement on page 11, and in plain think of it as we own more than we owe in your home. If you bought a home for $300,000 and you paid off $100,000, you have $200,000 mortgage. Everything else being held equal, you have $100,000 worth of equity in the house. That's sort of a similar concept here. You can see that that back in the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019, the regulating district's net position was a minus $10.5 million. For those of you who will be rushing off to the old audits to review all of these numbers as well, first of all, I can tell you that you can find them very easily on the reports page of our website. And if you get to 2018-19 and you say, hey, I don't see $10.5 million negative net position, the reason is you have to find that number in the 2020 audit. John mentioned GASB Statement 75, which relates to other post-employment benefits. When we completed the 2018-19 audit, we had not yet implemented that standard. So when we did implement it in the 2020 fiscal year, we had to restate 2019, and that resulted in a liability increase of about $7 million. So more fully reflects now the best actuarial estimate of the cost of the commitments that we have made to existing staff and to retirees for financing largely their health care, but other benefits that they're due in retirement. I'm going to do my best not to say again anything that John said, but it can't be overstated that the unmodified, or what we used to call in everyday language clean opinion, is in existence for all of the statements that we have here. John mentioned positive net revenue for the year that just ended and the prior year, which you see on page 12. We have, in fact, generated positive net revenue for 5 of the last 6 years. We are in a positive net position, as you see on this graph. This is the first time we have been in a positive net position since 2016. It is the first time we have been in a positive net position of this magnitude since 2013. None of this would have been possible without support from the board, of course, a very significant team effort by all the people at this table, as well as all of the rest of our colleagues, and of course, with Governor Hochul's support for the state assuming the responsibility for those real property tax payments that we talked about. Combine that support with what we think is the prudent, also known as non-recurring use of a very large section element of the now almost $11 million over 3 years that we have not paid out in real property tax payments, has allowed us to both finance on a pay-as-you-go basis, what many are going to go and view again today, the Hawkinsville Dam. We will have, by the time Indian Lake is done, finance that improvement with nearly $5 million in pay-as-you-go financing, all of which helps reduce debt service payments that would have otherwise come into being at Indian Lake for 30 years. And in the next few years, as we have talked in the past, the $75 million, give or take, of the infrastructure rehabilitation money that is coming from state budgets of recent years greatly increases the likelihood that the trend that you see on this graph will continue in the years in the future. And with all of that, I'm happy to answer any questions, as I'm sure is John, if he wants to say anything more or better about any of this part of the regulating district's recent history.
I'm in the bullpen if you need me.
If there are no questions, Mr. Chair, I'll gladly turn the talking stick back to you.
We had no questions. I guess the last thing we ought to do is adjournment. They
I
want to make a
gotta say
motion.
though, great job.
Yeah. Yes, it did. Yes. The motion,
I'll make that.
next motion.
I'll second.
Okay, do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, and this is the end of the audit. I'll hand the gavel over.
I'd like to call to order the October meeting of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District. Mr. Leslie, roll call, please.
Board Chair Mark Finkel,
Here.
First Vice Chair Kenneth DeWitt,
Here.
Second Vice Chair Alfred Candido,
Here.
Board Members Albert Hayes,
Here.
Richard Byrd,
Here.
Timothy Reagan,
Here.
and Nicole Allen.
Here.
Executive Director John Callahan.
Here.
General Counsel Robert Leslie here. Chief Engineer Robert Fulton.
Here.
Chief Fiscal Officer Timothy Minicha.
Here.
And the Director of Administrative Services Stephanie Rizicki.
Here.
All accounted.
Thank you very much. I need a motion to adopt the meeting agenda.
I will make that motion.
Mr. Hayes.
Any
Candido.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Introduction of guests. Well, we have our former chair with us. Welcome. And now public comment period. Peter Platt would like to address the board.
Yes. Morning. My name is Peter Platt. I house on 233 Houseman Street on the Great Sac and Dogwood. I'm back in front of you. Started a year ago. I'm obviously here because nothing's been done. Now, my house is located directly in front of a 30-foot embankment, all sand, very steep, and the actual erosion is starting 20 feet from my house. And I would like to start by giving you people a chart taking off your site. I'd like y'all to take note of what I have marked off in yellow.
Do you have a copy for the Secretary of the Board?
Somewhere. I was told 6. You need it now?
One of the board members,
There you go.
care to share?
Take this.
Thank you, Mr. Reagan.
Now, it says infrastructure, the distance of erosion is within 5 feet. That creates a very serious problem, which is why it's priority 1. I'd like to know what priority you would give it when it's at 0 feet. Not at 5 feet, probably 10 years ago it was at 5 feet. Now it's at 0 feet. It is directly up against my property. Now, as you can see, the yellow stake is your property line. And that stick that you see is right at the very edge of your property line. Now follow that stick out. Like anybody, tell me what's under that stick. Absolutely nothing is under that stick except air. All air. Nothing. Now I hear a lot of people say, oh, the vegetation and stuff is good for the bank. Well, hard to grow vegetation in, you know. How long that stake is, that stick? 5 feet. That's where you should have been addressing it when your property was at the edge of that stick. Now there's nothing there. In my house, this is directly in front of my house, this stake and this erosion, which is quite problematic because that erosion is not getting any better. And thank you, Mr. Even worse than the priority ones. This again is taken off your rules and regulations, which makes the priority 1. Again, I'd like to just
Well, they don't have it.
And again, I would like to bring your attention to the caption underneath the top picture, where it denotes that the erosion is much, much more serious when there is a structure involved. Not only is there a structure involved, it's not like I got a woodshed there, or the structure is in vicinity. My house is in very close vicinity to your erosion. And as you say right there with that picture, that ups the ante considerably when the structure is close to your erosion site. Again, taking off your rules and regulations. And now, any questions or comments? This is directly off your website, or not your website, but your rules and regulations. Just take a give you this. Again, like you read this, I supplied a letter to you the last session. I certainly hope all of you received it. And my main point here, so I can read this to you. As noted, shoreline areas require erosion protection can only be assessed by the district's work boat during periods relative high lake periods. Other sites may be accessible by land and could be repaired using conventional heavy equipment. I take it this is like an SOP, standard operating procedure, to bring heavy equipment in? When need be? Would be an accurate statement? Fair and accurate? Still the case?
If it was on state property, yes.
Pardon?
If it were on state property, yes.
Well, what about my back? How are you gonna fix that? I've been told if you can't get to the erosion with a boat, then you have to get access by land to fix your state property. Your state property is now eroding my private property, and your boat can't get to it. It's 30 feet up. And right here, you say, when conventional heavy equipment is necessary, you use it. Correct? Yes? No? Maybe? And throughout your rules and regulations, you state this many times. You bring in heavy equipment in order to alleviate the erosion. That's still a practice? I mean, I've talked to your field.
I'm not answering you because I don't know.
Oh, I've talked to your field office people, and every one of your field office people tell me, yeah, that's what we do. Matter of fact, when the boat was there this summer, they were putting stones in the bottom of the bank. I went to the boat guy and said, what are you doing? He goes, I'm repairing the erosion on the bank. I said, you ain't gonna get the worst erosion on top of the bank, which is 30 feet up. And the boat captain told me, no, you're not. Can I get access to that bank with my truck in order to fix it? I said, sure you can. Last year, I was told this bank was going to be repaired with bringing heavy equipment in. Hasn't happened. Matter of fact, I have a big giant carved bear that's sitting right on the precipice of this bank. Your people said, when we bring the equipment in, your responsibility to move that bear because we can't touch private property. So you're going to have to move that bear that's going to be in the way of our equipment, which we need to fix your bank. So then, after the boat goes, I write to the field office and go, when do you want me to move that bear? Well, he said it's not necessary, and I thought that very strange. Here's why I found it strange. Earlier, I got a letter from Mr. Fulton, and I will quote, in reviewing all correspondence, you or with Mr. Platt, I cannot find a single reference to the regulating districts bringing in heavy equipment. You have that right there in front of you. Although we have complained to Mr. Platt, it's possible to obtain a work permit from the regulating district to place other armoring stones from the top of the bank utilizing land-based equipment. We have neither recommended it or indicated that it is work we would ever undertake. So you're telling me You bring heavy equipment in, and he's telling me, no, never even seen that. He's never seen that phrase in your bylaws. Never seen it. How's that wash? Anybody know? Nothing. My next question is, why hasn't there been any movement on repairing this erosion, which is very rapidly coming toward my house? I have 0 lawn. Gone. It's gone. I'm losing lawn every single day. Your property is gone. And in reading through your rules and regulations here, many times, several times, you have stated that you've known about this since 2002. You've stated this exact thing, saying it's at an outlet, it is steep, it is high, and it is sandy. And it really has to be taken care of. This exact thing you have talked about. You've known about this since 2002. Now it's at the point where it's jeopardizing my house. And I wonder why nothing is being done. Anybody? No?
You're saying all this
Just the
right
top
here
part.
is eroding.
Just the top part. What I'm saying is, when you look at it, it says the erosion problem is much greater when a structure is involved. That's what that top part says.
Well, when looking at this, I think this has been, a good job of putting that riprap up there.
That's just an example of your, that's in your, these
Yeah, I know-
are,
I know what
these
you're
are
saying.
different priorities. This is the priority one, and it says the erosion problem is much more serious when there's a structure. And I don't have a structure involved, I have a house involved. So that becomes much more serious than your category one is. Because my house is in very close proximity to the bank. That's one of your pictures. That's not, I didn't take those. Those are your examples. The bottom two are priority 2s and 3s. Top one is they say it's even greater than a priority 1. It's called a severe priority 1 because of the structure being in near proximity to the erosion. And that is exactly my scenario. That's why I just pointed out that top caption. Those are your comments, not mine. That the most serious, it calls it, as a matter of fact, it calls it the most serious erosion we can have is when a house is close to it. And that is exactly my situation. That's what I mean by that picture right there. Any other questions?
Well, I think I understand what you're talking about.
Okay, thank you. What I was mainly getting at is it says right there, it makes it much more serious when a structure is involved than your original priority 1 designation. That's where I am, in a very precarious position, where I could possibly lose a house. What goes on, well, when it was at 5 feet, you obviously didn't pay any attention to it. That's what you're supposed to do. Now it's at 0 feet. Still not paying any attention to your erosion. I find that sad. Don't know why. State right here. It's within 5 feet, we have to address it. Well, it's at 0 feet, hasn't been addressed.
All right. Well, thank you.
Will I get any kind of an answer in writing or a conclusion to the meeting or a timetable or an explanation or any of the above?
No, we'll leave it that.
Pardon?
I thought I could leave it that.
And will I find the results of that when we talk about it? I appreciate that.
Staff, certainly after the board's had an opportunity to reflect on Mr. Platt's remarks, Mr. Fulton and I can certainly follow up. Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I need next approval of the September 9th regular board meeting minutes. Need a motion?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Next, report of our executive director, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report appears on page 16 in the packet. If the members had an opportunity to review before pausing for any questions the members might have, I would just like to reflect, if I can, on the great job staff has done in a very complex time when we are working with the State Attorney General's office to get justice from a hydropower company, or we're writing our fiscal ship and dealing with a myriad of funding sources. And as Mr. Fultan executes a very complex and rigorous capital construction program, and that our Director of Administrative Services ensures compliance with all applicable internal controls while dealing with so many other program areas under her purview. And it's just a very frenetic and successful time, I think, under the board's leadership for the regulating district, seeing these projects as we just attended, right, Rob, the post-construction inspection at Hawkinsville Dam with DEC. So technically, that project hasn't been accepted. So you could say really you have 3 projects going on at once, even as we get closer and closer to undertaking the multi-year comprehensive rehabilitation of Conklinville Dam with OGS. So a lot of balls up in the air. None of them are dropping. And I think the good news that Tim shared today with John's help, that was evident in the annual independent audit, is really remarkable when you talk about how far we've come and the hurdles and headwinds that this board has faced. And with your leadership, we've navigated those and come out on the other end. And I think we're in a very good trajectory, helping serve the people that we help protect through public safety, through flow augmentation and flood protection. So we appreciate that very much. And with that, I would just pause for any questions members may have.
Very good. Any questions, comments? Okay, contracts, motion to approve the resolution authorizing the expenditure of $11,224 for Ventrac area attachment for use at the Conklinville Dam.
Thank you, Mr.
What
Chairman.
is that?
And you're gonna tell us what the hell that is, right?
I would like to direct the board attention to the resolution on page 17. This resolution is requesting authorization to purchase a Ventrac aerator attachment to the Ventrac mower currently in use at Conklinville. The aerator is specifically designed to improve the performance of our existing Ventrac mower. With this attachment, we will see significant improvements in aeration and maintenance of our grounds, which will help us keep the area in optimal condition. If you're not familiar with the aerator, it serves and loosens the soil beneath the lawn without disturbing it, and it increases water and oxygen absorption. And staff has determined it's an important piece of equipment that we need at Conklinville.
Is that something you use in a golf course?
Yes.
Yes. Conklinville's not like.
But you only find out about it after you've paid your greens fees,
You
that
gotta
they
roll that
aerated the
swap.
13th.
But we are going for erosion control on the earthen embankment, not aesthetics.
As equally important as a golf course, the grass and maintenance of the grass on an earthen embankment. Keeping that healthy is probably just as, if not more important than green.
If we see a flag up at Conklinville, Mr. DeWitt, we'll know you're putting.
Remember, it started off with a truck, and then there was a trailer, and after the trailer, there was a new backhoe thing or whatever. Now we got the air.
I also want to point out the equipment is available for purchase on New York State OGS General Services contract, so we're able to secure competitive pricing, but also maintaining compliance with our procurement regulations. At this time, we're seeking approval to proceed with the purchase in the amount of $11,224.
I'll make that motion.
You have a second? I'll second.
Mr. Reagan, Mr. DeWitt.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Staff and committee reports. Mr. Hayes, the audit committee.
The audit committee met and had Mr. John Costello. Had a resolution, well, not the resolution, but he spoke on the audit, thing, and then this time I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Medici, right?
Sure. Happy to answer any questions that may have emerged since then. But we're happy to present to the audit committee and now to the board the completed audited financial statements, audit of investments in accordance with public authorities law, all of which has been reported to the authorities budget office, also required by public authorities.
On time.
We need a motion to accept.
No,
We need a motion to accept.
no, you don't.
No, we don't accept. Okay. Thank you. Next, benefit, any questions, further questions? Next, General Counsel, Mr. Leslie.
The General Recoveries Unit of the AG's Office, Civil Recoveries Bureau, continues to prepare its summons a complaint with regard to the affirmative case against Erie. There's no new development there. Neither is there any significant new development with our insurance carrier with respect to the personal injury case brought against us for the fallen mason at the Indian Lake rehabilitation project. Available to answer any questions, but in the interest of time, that's it.
You know, just the thing on the complaint, I think that's kind of pretty much where we were last month too, that they're gonna move forward. How much longer is that gonna take, Rob, before
They have said that they want to get it done before the end of the year. They
get into a court system to start looking at it?
Yes, that they want to serve the summons and the complaint before the end of the year. I took that to mean the calendar year. I think they intended that was the calendar year. Obviously, the state's fiscal year ends in the end of March. The statute of limitations on this claim will run June 30th. So obviously, our fiscal year ends June 30th. So I anticipate some activity by December. I will be a little more agitated if it's March. I will be very agitated by the time it turns to June.
But why would they hold off?
And let me just say, if I may, Counselor, that there are some things going on with that case relative to their getting the necessary tools to be successful. And I think we'd want to talk about that probably in the context of executive session. And maybe we could plan on an executive session, unless you'd like one today.
This will take care of me if you answer. So something's happened.
It is, but we're not seeing the
Okay.
fruits of that.
That's all I
yet.
want. We're not waiting to do something. Something's actually happening, and you're in the.
The wheels are turning.
Okay,
Right,
that's good.
that's fair.
Any other questions for Mr. Leslie? If not, Director of Administrative Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report is located on page 20 of the board packet. Over the past reporting period, I focused on several key activities. The first being a rack card that I designed, as well as procuring swag for us to hand out. I attend several events during the year. Other staff might as well, and we have several visitors to the second level field office who are not familiar with who we are and what we do. So the first item is a what we call rack card, information about who we are, as well as our contact information. And these are items that we will give out to MWBE, SDVOB vendors, as well as potential candidates when I might be attending like a work event. And also to give out at the second level field office, or other staff might be needing them, just to get our name and who we are out there, especially communicate with our mission, build public awareness, and engage with our community. Also, like the point out, I participated in the recent SUNY ESF Empire State of Work event, representing our organization and connecting with potential candidates for future openings that the district might have. In terms of staffing, I oversaw the recruitment process of our maintenance specialist vacancy. To date, we have received 1 resume. Lastly, I'll just point out the contract status sheets are located on pages 21 to 23. They're there for your review and satisfy the public authority requirement. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at this.
That's good. No, thank you.
Very nice job, thank you. I like it. Any other questions or comments? Excellent. Chief Fiscal Officer, Mr. Meade.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You may find the CFO report on page 24 of your packet. Having spent a fair amount of time talking about regulating district finances this morning, just happy to offer to answer any questions you might have.
Any further questions?
Before you carry on, Mr. Chair, can I also direct everyone's attention to the signed affidavit on page 46 of your packet. This necessary and reasonable expenses incurred by board members relating to participation in prior board meetings. Article 3, Section 2 of the Regulating Districts bylaws require the board to approve payment before any reimbursement can be made. Before you ask for such a motion, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about this request.
Yeah, moving right through this. A motion to accept the expenses?
I'll make that motion.
Second? Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
Thank you.
Next, Chief Engineer, Mr. Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report begins on page 47. September brought a little relief from our drought and dry conditions in the Hudson River area with 60 to 90% of the historic average precipitation in our reservoir watersheds. Although the precipitation was closer to the historic average, that only resulted in 28 and 30% of historic average inflow at Great Sacandaga and Indian Lake reservoirs, respectively. In the Black River area, saw a little bit less, but still an improvement between 55 and 75% of historic average precipitation at Stillwater, Old Fort, and Six Lake, with Stillwater seeing only about an 18% of historic average inflow. Great Sacandaga Lake tracks fairly closely to the historic average, but below the target elevation. And Indian Lake similarly tracks below the historic and target elevation. And in the Black River area, Stillwater has tracked nicely despite the lack of inflow to the historic average, but below target. And Old Fort and Six Lake, as we usually operate those, were able to be maintained at their typical summer elevations straight through to the end of September. And we are now starting to draw those reservoirs down as we typically do this time of year. At the end of my report, there's a summary from Collier's Engineering on the work that's progressing at Indian Lake. For the most part, our contractor at Indian Lake is finishing the last few items of the original scope of work and now beginning the additional work at the gatehouse foundation. At Old Fort and Six Lake, our construction contract been approved by the Attorney General's office and is at the State Comptroller's office for review and approval. And lastly, I extend an invitation to the board and the staff to a field trip at Hawkinsville to see the completed job there after the meeting. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
On the Great Sacandaga Lake, we're below the settlement target elevation. And then, most of the summer. Why can't we just shut off the water then going down?
Well, the offer of settlement determines the minimum flow that's allowed below the confluence of the Sacandaga River and the Hudson River. That minimum flow requires certain minimum releases out of Great Sacandaga Lake. The first priority is augmentation. The reservoirs are there to provide that augmentation. So while there is a target elevation at that reservoir, it is sacrificed, so to speak, in favor of providing and meeting our statutory obligation for low flow.
So salinity coming up the Hudson River is what drives it?
No, that doesn't play a part in the offer of settlement at all. It has to do with things like recreational needs, environmental needs in the Hudson, in the upper Hudson, the speedies permits for waste assimilation, fisheries, and then also the hydro use throughout the Hudson, including also the Sacandaga.
Yeah, it's important to note, I think, Rob, that even absent the offer of settlement, just our enabling statute, our raison d'etre, right, is to provide flood protection and flow augmentation. So even if we didn't have that offer of settlement, we would still be providing that flow augmentation part of our mission. And in fact, at one point when the flow on Sacandaga River at Hope was right around 70, 75 CFS, probably accounting for a much higher percentage of the inflow into the reservoir than normal because of dry conditions. We were releasing 20 times that on a daily average basis. So, you know, we don't make water, but we do create flow when you're in abnormally dry periods. So even without the offer of settlement, that is what the reservoir is designed to do.
Sure. Historically, the operation of the reservoir would not have been dissimilar without the offer of settlement in this particular hydrologic condition that we've been experiencing since the refilling this year. And I think it's evident.
Keep it all straight. I wouldn't even, because you look at the offer of settlement, you look at it and say, okay, I'll be able to follow that line. And then that becomes a thing, but then you got everything else that's tied into it.
Well, I think what's maybe the best takeaway, we've satisfied the expectations for downstream needs and provided that low flow augmentation and still kept the reservoir at historic average elevations. That's partially why the target elevation was raised to the elevation that you see in that red dotted line on the graph, in that we don't draw the reservoir down quite as much, which brings more water into the reservoir upon refilling. We refill and store a little bit more water than we historically have, which gives us more water in the case that we have a dry period like we did for the last 3 months or so. And by doing that, we don't sacrifice as much of the elevation in the reservoir. Had we started at the lower elevation and been using the old method of operation, if you will, the reservoir would likely have been lower today than it is even right now and below the historic average. So the extra volume of trying to target a higher elevation and then storing more in the spring gives us the ability to meet those low demands downstream while also not sacrificing as much of the elevation. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Board member questions and comments. Just a couple. I'm happy to report that our electrical outlets at the site are being used. Right? We've had
Yes.
some usage of it.
Starting to see some usage,
Starting
Mr.
to
Chair.
see some usage of our. Of course, that's a subject that's near and dear to my heart. And secondly, I did a lousy job of introducing him, but our former board chairman, for some of you who don't know him, Dave Burke-Stresser is our guest here. And he's from Old Forge, and he was the chairman before me. So welcome, Dave.
Is that a Pittsburgh Pirate fan?
Steelers.
I mean, Steelers, I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Steelers.
I grew up there.
Next board meeting, anybody else have comments?
Just one question. How this, when this guy came in and talked about it, I can't answer him because I don't know.
What?
Yes, the information on that.
So,
But he has an erosion problem. I think nobody's disagreeing with that, are you? Going through. And other parts of the lake have a place where we have fill-in problem, where there's stuff, settlement and stuff coming in.
so we've looked carefully in that, and I think I've shared some pictures of the work we did this summer with some members of the board, and we can circulate those after the meeting. I think the guys did a really great job. It really had, as we wrote to Mr. Platt, a year and a half ago or so, excuse me for not knowing exactly the date, sufficient armoring stone along the embankment to protect it from wave action induced or elevation induced erosion. Notwithstanding that, Mr. Ginter and I did meet on site with him. We took a closer look at where we could fill in some stone. And as Mr. Fulton noted in his letter, we did. We had the guys, and we did note to Mr. Platt that he was free to apply for and get, as we issued to many residents, a permit to place additional armoring stone on state land nearer to the top of the bank. But there's no ongoing erosion from the reservoir. Whether he has an erosion issue from runoff from the road is why in our correspondence we copied the town building inspector, because that could be a structural issue not within our purview and certainly not our responsibility to address. But we are very confident. Mr. Ginter and I, after the summer, after we did place, I want to say about 90 ton. That sound about right to you, Rob?
Right.
About 90 ton of stone. Mr. Ginter and I did inspect the area by boat, took a large number of photos. Again, I shared a few of those. It's really well armored. If there are other structural issues relative to his residence, if there are other issues relative to runoff from stormwater runoff, those are
So
not
the issue
issues
is-
within our purview. That's our position, supported, I think, well supported and documented by the correspondence that we've had with him over the better course of 2 years, I think, is that we've addressed any of the issues for which we would be responsible for. We have more than adequately addressed. And Rob, I'd ask you to add anything to that.
No, I would agree, and I think one of the most notable component of that bank in the photos is the change in vegetation on the slope, which is very indicative of a more stable embankment if the vegetation has an opportunity to establish itself. And that's directly related, as John said, to the extensive amount of stone placed at the toe, again, because any erosion that could be occurring because of the reservoir is going to occur first at that toe, and that area is heavily eroded.
So it sounds like there's erosions coming from up above.
And I
Right,
think
that's
that's
right.
kind of the issue that John was
Yeah.
alluding to, is that there may be other factors that cause this, but we're confident that the toe, where the reservoir acts, is firmly and soundly reinforced.
So,
In us,
we'll send him another correspondence.
we certainly
Answer that he
will.
was here.
Yes, we certainly will, Mr. Chair, and maybe pause for a few days after the meeting. If on an individual basis, any of the board members have additional questions, we can make sure that we've satisfied everybody prior to answering. But I just note, from our erosion control program, we're sort of, in recent history anyway, at a high water mark, as Tim can attest when he gets the requests for additional stone. And it's a point of pride that we are getting to as many sites as we can. Still, we realize that it's a large reservoir. There are many sites, and that's why many residents do take advantage of the opportunity to seek and get a work permit to, at their expense, deploy additional armoring stone. So that is still, and we'll point that out to Mr. Platt.
He's underlined these things in yellow.
We can highlight,
And I
underline,
think we
circle,
want
and bold.
to Answer this argument.
Well, he's highlighting the erosion control plan. He's not speaking to the bylaws, he's not speaking to rules and regulations. He's speaking to our erosion control plan, which, as John and Rob have indicated, we have followed.
Yeah, okay. So just send him that again.
And then that he has the capability of taking care of the rest himself, is what we're saying.
Yeah, we'll,
He has to put up with that.
we'll make it clear that we don't plan to be back, Mr. Wood.
But my point of looking at it is where there's erosion, there's also, it's settling someplace in the reservoir probably at some point.
Adding to depth concerns,
That's
I
right.
think is your point.
And a backblade, you can't get that settlement out with a backblade.
Sure, certainly not.
So
And
I'm saying we need to address that issue because that's an issue. The settlement in some areas is an issue.
And where we are focusing, and I think I don't doubt that he was reading from our actual erosion control plan, is we are addressing those issues that are subject to wave action and elevation induced erosion, where you do see material maybe being transported back into the reservoir. That is not the case here. We've established a good tow. There's good shoreline erosion control in place. But those are the areas that you described. Those are exactly the areas that we're out there actively and I think professionally and capably addressing.
So there is an avenue to go for settlement and erosion to take care of those issues.
Two birds with one stone.
If you've got erosion, you got settlement somewhere.
I think I see what you're saying.
Especially with a dam in the way.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, I place stone under some of these, one hand, one stone at a time.
I'd be in this pickup truck now, this trailer. I'm a camel. I'm getting one head in. I'm going to get one hump in. So I think John knows where I'm going.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to say that we should be considering on the Old Forge Dam project, on the new docks we're putting in, who's going to control the parking there? Are we lab, or I know we don't want
It will be
anything to do with it.
It will be the town, and we'll sign an agreement with them.
The authority,
Yeah.
because it's been a problem over the past few years.
Yes, sir.
Leaving their boats there all summer and so on and so forth. Okay, so we don't have to worry about it.
Well, it's not that we don't have to worry about it because we've got to put an agreement in place, but I think the town has been great, very solicitous and accommodating in terms of laydown area and the project. We've had several meetings, and Mr. Bird, you were able to attend a couple of those. We have talked about an ongoing maintenance and operations agreement that would clarify that we are not actively going to manage that a local asset. As I think the board knows, this was one of the elements of the town's comprehensive plan that while we're there building this project, sort of to account for the imposition that we will address in conjunction with the project. So, but we don't want to day to day have any management responsibilities, Mr. Bird, as you suggested.
Because there's no formal agreement between the town and the authority
There is not
as
now.
far as any of that in the past. Thank you.
This agreement will be prospective.
Hey, just one more question. And as we look around the table, you folks, and take a look at your agents and stuff, should we start thinking about, and maybe, I don't know, I haven't been involved when we've hired anybody here at this level of going forward, but is there good, are there good, there's different names for them. I'm not thinking job description, I'm thinking more major responsibilities and skills required for each one of your jobs, that when we get to the point that we have to, we'll have a nice checklist. You have all those things? And is that something we should start thinking about? That's all. I don't want to talk about it right now, but is it something we should take a few minutes at one of the meetings and just?
So you're planting the seed more than looking for a response. Great.
I am.
Thank you.
I'm looking for succession plans.
We'll do that.
I'm working on 110.
Huh?
I'm working for 100.
That's fine. I know.
I am not.
How's your longevity in your family?
Our next meeting,
Yeah.
Our next meeting is November 13th,
A Thursday,
SFO.
a
I need a
Thursday.
motion for the next meeting. For the next meeting.
They'll make that motion.
Oh, second.
Mr. Hayes, Mr.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion for adjournment.
I'd only note that that is a Thursday meeting,
Thursday? Yes.
It's unusual.
unusual.
The date on which Veterans Day falls,
Oh,
and we
okay.
usually like to have a work day before the board meeting.
No, Thursday. Okay, we have a motion for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.